Now, I am going to first, so I'm going to try and not mess up here, and that will be a big challenge for me. But I want to get Amit, Nick, and Kevin to start making their way up here, and I think Kendall is going to be our moderator for the afternoon. And with that, let's see if I can do this. So, Kevin, I think I already covered some ground with you a little while ago. And so in that mix-up from the last panel, just kind of moving them, interdispersing all the speakers here. And again, Kevin is a thought leader, entrepreneur, tirelessly in this pursuit of making a difference. And for him, like Steve Jobs, it's not enough to come up with breakthrough ideas. He transforms ideas into irresistible products. Our next speaker, of course, is Amit, and where am I looking for you, Amit? Here we go. And of course, Amit comes from with a combination of technical and management background. Started his career as a marketing manager at Hurian Consulting, PVT Limited. During his tenure with them, he helped scale the operations in various sectors and regions, and also headed up an in-house project, Testimonials from idea to launch. So absolutely bringing lots of great things to bear here. And last, but certainly not least, we have Nick, and I am looking feverishly for you here, experienced marketing and sales professional with an entrepreneurial mindset that gets things done. Thought leader in online and offline omni-channel e-commerce with a specialty in retail and all things digital, a startup advisor and a business engineer. And so with that, big round for these folks before they get going. And Kendall, you're all ready to rock and roll? Okay, take it away.
Okay, to get started here, I think we'll let each of them tell us a bit more about their business. So Kevin, if you want to tell us a bit more about Quantech, so everyone has an idea what you do.
Quantech, we're a local company in Thunder Bay, and we started, I guess, I always get these dates wrong, but it's about 5 years ago. And right now we have customers that we're serving anywhere from train control systems to all the way to, I don't know, we get to more business analytics, to, I don't know, mobile apps. And so we have quite a variety of different products that we've actually developed for organizations. We have in-house products that we are now in-house developed that we're actually selling, I guess, or building up a customer base for some of the in-house products that we've developed. And yeah, and a lot of our customers are either American customers. We got probably about 70% of our business comes from the States, and we got about 20% maybe from Northern Ontario area.
Great, thank you. Amit, maybe if you could tell us sort of the story of Recruit, where it came from and what it is.
Sure, Kendall. Well, I'm Amit. I'm the CEO and the co-founder of Recruit. So Recruit is a job advertising platform. We started close to 3 years ago with the idea that how we can re-engineer the recruitment space by advertising. So what we do is we work with big job boards like Monster, Simply Hired, Jobs to Career, and actually give them solutions so that they can take their jobs on web in form of advertisements and actually reach audience anywhere on the web, build on multi-channels using our custom audiences and a lot of other machine learning and target automation, so that we know that the job seekers and the candidates out there, we just provide them tools so that they can reach them and they can engage with them.
Great, thank you. And Nick, if you could kind of tell us the story of Ship Early and what it is that you do.
Sure. So I'm Nick Colabutin, and I'm the CEO and founder of a company called ShipEarly.com. And what we do, it's omni-channel, which a lot of you guys might not have heard of, but essentially what that means is customers have the ability to buy anytime, anywhere, on any device, whether it's online, offline. So what we do is we're turning e-commerce on its head, and rather than e-commerce as you know it today, where it's direct to consumer, and we integrate value-added resellers into the checkout flow. so that customers, when they're going through, they can actually select a local retail partner that they want to buy from rather than selling direct. And what that does is there's a channel conflict that happens when brands, think about large brands selling direct. They could be selling next door to a retailer that actually has stock of that product. So we pull the inventory from retailers so that you can buy from a local retailer off of a brand's website. So think of Amazon, we're just creating people's private Amazons on their own website so that you can get more sales, and customers benefit because they can get free shipping without paying for it by picking it up at a local store. So it's the click and collect model, but we handle the vendor and retail relationships.
Great, thank you. So kind of informal here, I have some specific questions for each of you, but if someone else has something to add, feel free. So first question is going to be for Amit. So there are several employment sites and other methods where people can seek employment or look for employees. What did you see yourself doing differently in order to captivate the audience of employees and employers?
Sure. So yeah, this is something that we get a lot. That okay, there are so many job boards. Why are you and how are you different? So the problem is recruitment and employment is the slowest changing industry. And over the years, if we just look in last 5 years, some major players like the companies who used to be like the industry leaders have literally gone down, and new technologies and new innovations are coming in. And that's exactly what we saw as an opportunity, that employers and in the end the client and the customers, they don't need job boards, but they need new ways of engaging candidates, new ways that how they can reach candidates and job applicants mainly. So that's why we saw that advertising is the same thing as is reaching customers the same way employers wants to reach job seekers. So we implemented traditional advertising concepts in recruitment. And we don't allow employers to post a job on our platform, but what we do is we convert a job into an advertisement, which is not just which just doesn't look good, but it's also engaging. It conveys a message that employer wants to give to job seeker, and it can be just put anywhere. It can be put on Facebook, it can be put on Twitter, and it reaches them wherever they spend time online. So the reach and you can say the way of doing job advertisements, it's different than regular employment websites.
Great, thank you. I'm going to go to Nick next. So we know that Ship Early's had to work hard in order to get the word out there in a digital marketplace and environment. How did Ship Early get the word out there?
Sure. So I started as a startup, and being a digital guy, I thought it was all about digital first, right? So, but believe it or not, we're all human beings, and we like to chat with one another. And when you're doing enterprise sales of something that's somewhat complex, there's no way digitally you can break through the noise. So what we've done is we've shifted our strategy, and it's more towards contacting people on a human level. So we actually go to trade shows now, and we show up there. And when I was at my first job out of university, I used to knock on doors for a living. And it gives you a lot of confidence. But again, it gets that human level of getting that word out. And oddly enough, now that I'm starting my own company, it's the exact same thing, except for now I go to trade shows and I knock on trade show booths. So like for example, I go to shows like Interbike. I just went to the Kitchen and Bath Industry Association show, and I'm trying to form business relationships with people. So I find it's a hybrid approach that tends to work best of getting contacts with people. So it's really easy to ignore an email or a LinkedIn message or anything like that. So getting in front of somebody, getting that eye contact, business card, and all the rest of it, and actually having a visual that you can show and getting that demonstration has been monumental to be able to move our business forward.
Great. Amit or Kevin, with your companies, getting the word out there, what have you done? Is there anything you learned you should do or shouldn't do?
I guess things that have worked. I wouldn't consider myself an expert on this, whether it be luck or whether it be what we did. I can tell you what we did, and what has been working is demonstration. Starting small with not a large sell into an organization. When we come into an organization, we like to solve their biggest pain points at first, discovering their pain points and doing a really good job of solving one or two of their pain points. And if they're happy with their work, then then we grow. So it's word of mouth spreads, especially amongst industry, if you're solving problems. And so its demonstration has been our best. And because of social media, we've done very little actually, but our customers have done a lot of promotion on our behalf. Even the bio was kind of a surprise. That was kind of actually, I guess, pulled off of a LinkedIn quote that someone put. So, so like if a customer is happy with what you're doing, they're going to promote you.
Anything to add?
I'll definitely echo what Nick said, that you need to have a personal touch, and it has to be like you need to meet people whom you want to sell, and before you can build a brand, you need to build a bond, and that's why you actually go to conferences, you meet people, you take them for coffee, grab drinks, but like, because then that's when, like, when you go back and follow up with an email, you can expect a reply back. Until you have that connection, you can just keep cold emailing people, and it's very unlikely that you will get a response back. So yes, getting out there, meeting people, and reaching out to them, it's very important.
Great, thank you. Kevin, I'm going to go to you next. So Quantec offers very innovative solutions for data analysis and monitoring, as well as tools for meeting and mobile data. It sounds like the features of your company are constantly growing and evolving. How do you meet the challenge of development and growth?
I guess that's a big question as well. Internally, I guess we can break that up into two parts. There's internally challenges when we're adding new features to some of our product lines. And then there's externally, there's the customers who are actually using it. So a lot of you guys have organizations. If we were using one of our products, for example, if we were to add new features or change features, that would be disruptive also for the customer. So I guess meeting that challenge would, building, I guess I could use a couple examples maybe. Building a culture into the program itself, meaning that you can actually ping the actual programmers themselves, whether it be bugs at first or suggestions, and building that conversation with the front-end users. And it's really important for us to meet even at the beginning of development with the front-end users and be in constant communication. So whether it be from bugs to actually new features, they feel a connection to whatever changes are happening. So building that relationship, building the human factor into it.
That seems to be a common trend. It's the personal human factor for sure. Amit, where do you see marketing for both bricks and mortar and online companies going in 2016 and beyond?
The one thing that we need to understand about marketing, and we emphasize, it's not just about a product, but it's more about people and the people you are selling, people you can say, people you're targeting. There's definitely a trend more about like going digital, going social, and we preach it because that's something that we do. That's the core of our company, because we rather than a job advertising company, we refer ourselves as the advertising technology company. The reason companies need to look more for online solutions and actually going more digital is because the customers, the market is out there. I'll give you an example. Last year, our core focus was just US and North American market, and just because we have a good search engine optimization and sound social media strategy, we got a partnership approach from an Australian company, and we have a partnership with them now. But we have never it wouldn't have been possible if it was not for the digital strategies that we built over and over the years. So companies are gearing towards it because they know that, okay, sooner or later, the local market or the local customers that they have, they're going to exhaust. And if they need to keep growing, they need to find other customers, the customers that are outside their geographical locations. And they can't do it physically, so they have to do it digitally. So that's where I think the industry is heading.
Great. Nick?
So this is right in my field here because we do online and offline sales. And what we're finding is, in the US anyways, you hear an awful lot about e-commerce, but realistically it only represents 10% of retail sales. So it's a very small figure. And what we are telling our customers is that use digital as a sample size because it's traceable, it's trackable, and it's something that you can look at to determine trends. So what you're seeing in the retail industry right now are organizations like Frank and Oak, Warby Parker, and others. They start online first to learn who their customer is, what their market's like, what are they interested in, what are their trends, and then they use all that data that they have at their disposal to influence what happens offline. What we're seeing in our industry, in e-commerce in particular, is eventually you won't actually see online versus offline. It's going to be the same. It's going to be sales is what it's going to be called. So, you know, there is a disruption happening right now where digital has an influence, but that influence has the bigger impact what happens offline rather than necessarily online.
Thanks. I have another question for you, Nick, but I think you could all probably add some insight to this. So for those people here that are thinking of starting a new company or organization, whether it be online or offline, do you think they should wait till all aspects of their business are 100% perfect, or just kind of jump right in?
It will never be perfect.
Exactly.
So when I first started my company, I actually went to a trade show and exhibited before a lick of code was written, because I needed to get feedback from prospective customers in terms of who I wanted to deal with. Because without a customer or a development partner there working with you, you're just taking a guess and a stab at it. You know, business plans these days are almost impasse. The only people that want to see it, and I apologize to RBC, but it's bankers. So, you know, the best thing you can do is just jump in there with both feet. Obviously, do a little bit of research beforehand so you're not going in completely blind. But get going, working with people, get outside. There's no answers in four walls, and go out and speak with prospective customers to try and grow your business. And don't be afraid to throw yourself out there. I know early on we're saying cold calling, or if you can't afford to go to a show necessarily to do that, or attend industry shows. If you're a technical person, partner with someone who's got more of the human element to it. And not to say technical people don't have that, but you know, you need to partner with someone who's got a real life scenario or a real life problem at hand that can use some sort of digital enhancement to solve a real world problem.
Kevin, do you have anything to add, or?
I guess I could, yeah, I'm going to agree with Nick on most points there. And I would say, I guess the word perfect is pretty big again. But what I would say is identifying the story, the pain point that the organization has. And I would say at an analog level, that's where I'm agreeing with Nick, at the analog level, off digital, can we solve that problem? Can we validate that we can solve that problem? Almost be perfect at that and do it in a small way. And before, rather than having to, and I've made mistakes in my past, where rather than having to digitalize the solution, but solve it, validate that solution in a small way. So a great example would be bug dope. If there's mosquitoes out and everybody's crying because of the mosquito, and we identify that pain point, find one solution that actually solves that before you mass produce it. Where you can make this mistake that you have to build a factory producing this stuff before you can actually start validating the solution. So I'd say be perfect at the solution, but well, not perfect, never perfect, but
Keeps changing.
but be well focused and targeted on solving the problem.
In a quote from Reid Hoffman, the guy who started LinkedIn, if you wait for a product to be perfect, you've waited too long. So if you're trying to perfect something before you go to market or whatever it is, there's a very good chance, you know, a new business starts, probably 10, 20,000 new businesses start every day. There's a good chance someone else has the same idea or something like that of you. And if you just plan, you know what, someone's going to jump in 2 feet and steal your idea. And I think you guys have probably heard of first mover advantage before. So that's the person who starts something first. It's awfully difficult to knock that person out. So the quicker you can start doing something, to Kevin's point, even if it requires something manual for you to do in the immediate process, at least you're going to learn what you need to do eventually to automate to make your processes and workflows better. And our philosophy anyways is we're only 90% done all the time, our software. We're never complete. It's always a constant improvement. So realistically, if that was the case, we would never actually reach a company and launch it with the philosophy that we've got.
That's completely true. And in 3 years, that's something that we have understood that, okay, your product is never ready. You're always working on it. And and something that we have figured out that do not emphasize too much on the idea that you start with, because trust me or not, it will change, it will evolve. There are times that ideas are like what you started with is proves out to be completely worthless, and you're working with something completely different. So it's more or less, it's more about like before you start writing, try to validate it. Try to get one person who's ready to pay for it. That's your validation point. And once you're done that, then start to build something. You'll save yourself a lot of time.
Good. I'm going to go to Kevin again with this question. So from a digital perspective, what tools do you think businesses, government, and other organizations will require that they may not currently be using in order to operate efficiently and effectively in 2016 and the future? What are some of the must-have or required components to be successful?
I guess could look at it from a philosophy perspective. I guess programs, the organizations that we deal with, often we find that a traditional model that they're using is a lot of times their data is in silos. So they'll have like their files, and I got to go to this program for this file, or I got to go over here for this, and they have like several different programs. And one of the solutions in the past, I guess a 15-year-old solution, was to buy into a monster system that has all the data within the same system, so you can do your analytics. There's a new breed of tools and programs that connect, that allows you to still use all different programs and pull the programs together into one interface. And to do, whether it's your analytics or even programs that you can have like a common dashboard that pulls all the activity that's happening in your different silo data. So I would say that if you're not using something like that, if they still are working in I got to have 15 different sign-ins to actually know what's going on in our company, often people lose their question they were even asking in the first place. I would say accessing some of those, and I don't know if you want me to go into specific tools that are out there, but
If you have any recommendations for specific tools or must-haves that might help someone starting a business?
Depending on the complexity of the organization, you may go all the way from a custom interface that pulls an API like from each one of the programs you have, to programs like as simple as, say, a company like Slack that has a conversation-based, like almost like a Facebook news feed that actually pulls from a lot of the different feeds you have, and even internally in some of your organization. So almost like a notification monitor of what's going on in your company.
Nick or Amit, do you have any tools or must-haves that you could recommend just to make them sort of more successful in 2016 beyond, maybe make the process easier?
I don't know if this is on. I don't know if it's necessarily a tool, but I think it's more a philosophy of making sure you do take the time to plan, because a lot of us are caught up in our day-to-day that we forget to take our head up, because you got to fly at 50,000 feet and you got to fly at 5 feet in any job that you're able to do. So, taking that time away and with your team, as well as developing team goals. Again, it relates back to the human level. It's not necessarily a digital tool that you need to have to motivate a team to accomplish goals, set them. There's technology that you can use to get there as well. And I mean, our team uses Slack as well, in addition to a series of other tools. But making sure you know what that process is and knowing where you want to go is more important than any type of tool that you can use.
For next question, I'm going to go to Amit. So with the digital community moving so quickly, for an online store or business with an e-commerce present, do you think it's important for them to constantly innovate and, more importantly, perfect the product that they have?
Innovation for, I think, any business is very important. Like, for example, if you look at us, we constantly improve the product that we have. Like, there's no way we can say, okay, yeah, this is a perfect product. We don't have to do anything for next 5 years. If we take some examples, we have seen in the companies like billion-dollar companies failing to innovate, and they have seen themselves like falling behind. Like Monster.com, they were like 5 years ago, they were a billion-dollar company. Last week, their market cap is like 1/4 of what they were. So, and the reason was they were so they never interacted to the level with their customers that what new tools or what new technology that were coming out in the market, and they just thought, okay, this is what we have done already. And one of the question mark, this is how we have always done things. So in a way, innovation is important, but a lot of time people think, okay, how to innovate? And it's like, if I go to my product team and I tell them, hey guys, innovate, that's not going to happen.
Right.
So innovation it's a cycle, it's a process that, okay, you go to your customer, you connect with them, you understand their product, you understand their problems very well, you know that, okay, what they want, what times they want, and also like in that, like before you start working on that product, you also see that who else is doing it. You need to know your competition. You need to know, okay, when you're like what are the timelines you're dealing with, and that's more or less you need to be. This is more or less the direction you need to be.
Nick, do you have anything to add to that one? It's kind of the area you're in. Yeah, so in a digital community that's moving so quickly, for an online store or business with an e-commerce present, do you think it's important for them to constantly innovate?
Same to Amit's point, you got to keep innovating or else you're going to die. So for anyone who's got a store out there, e-commerce, it's important because it allows you to connect beyond your current market. I mean, having just a physical storefront, you're only going to, your geographic radius might be only Northwestern Ontario, whereas e-commerce allows you to expand it much beyond that. But before you even do e-commerce, it's about getting your processes in place to begin with. So like for example, all your data and inventory systems and stuff like that. So at a store level, if you can't display your inventory, 89% of customers want to know what you have before they even go to your store. So, you got to get some processes in place, and that's kind of the driver for anyone who's in the retail side or anyone who's on tourism that might be here, same thing. You need to have your inventory available in terms of booking dates or things like that of what's there, because customers, you're making them do the hard work if you do that, because how many customers are going to pick up the phone and call, especially, we're talking about millennials these days that are just on their phone and are kind of afraid to actually talk to people in some circumstances. They want to be able to have everything at their fingertips. This is the era of the consumer, and this is what digital allows the consumer to do, is connect in quite closely and quickly with any type of service that they want. If you're not communicating them in that environment, you've lost that prospect or sale.
Great, thank you. So I have one more question for Nick, and then we'll open up to the audience for questions. So there's so much growth in the mobile and digital world. How important is it to grow your online presence, whether it be web development, online product development, e-commerce, social media, etc., for both your bricks and mortar operations and your online operations?
I think I've hinted towards this in the conversation that, it really is a collision of what's happening, and it's a matter of getting different systems in place. So, e-commerce is just your ability to reach out to the world, and you got to get your back house as well as your front of the house involved as well. So, one of the things on digitally that we're noticing is mobile transactions are increasing at a rapid rate right now. So if anyone has a site out there that's not mobile enabled, you're actually not even going to get found on Google. And close to 50% of the searches that happen these days are actually on mobile devices, especially if they're looking for local searches. With respect to Google, social media stuff is starting to get integrated in, so you're going to start to see some like Twitter feeds and Facebook stuff happening. So if you're not in those channels, again, your likelihood of being found in search results, which is where the vast majority of customers are going to start, especially if they don't have a recommendation from a friend or anything like that. That's where they're going to go. But that being said, I know this is a digital conference, but a lot of the stuff of what you need to do offline in your business is just as important. If you don't have great relationships with your employees or customers, regardless of what channel it's in, you're more or less toast. So these tools that are out there today that all of us are generating are just intended to help enhance those relationships so that you can close more sales, build better relationships, and facilitate all the stuff that you're probably doing that's great offline right now.
I think that's important, that even though you're digital, you still have to make that effort to have that personable touch with your customers. And just because you may not see them face to face, you still have to make it a priority. So we'll open up to the audience for any questions. So if anyone has any.
Suzanne has one, I think.
No? Oh, is there someone over there?
All right, sorry.
Kevin, you touched on some different tools that businesses can use to make their company more efficient and more effective, and I think there's some groups here that might be really interested in you elaborating a little bit about Slack, maybe Trello. I don't know if you're familiar, you probably are familiar with Trello. I think that for our organization, when we implemented Slack and Trello, it changed the way we did business. It made us way more efficient. We no longer sent emails throughout our office as a whole. We Slack everything now. Everything gets done, immediately, and I think that a lot of companies here could really benefit from implementing Slack or something like Trello. So I'm wondering if you can just maybe elaborate on that a bit.
Yeah, Slack would be one of the options. There's a plethora of Slacks out there now, but the concept basically being moving less away from an email interaction, almost like a workflow. I'll give you a workflow example. I'm filling out a form, and I need you to sign it, so I email it to you, and I'm waiting for you. You check your email tomorrow and email it back, and then I download it. Versus actually post it. It's almost like a glorified WhatsApp. If you've used WhatsApp or a Facebook news feed, I have a personal news feed with a group, and you could just slide the file in, someone sees it, you see that they saw it, they can sign it right there, and it comes right back. There's systems that are, I can talk to you later even, that I like better than Slack, where you can actually sign it right within the program, and actually you can map the whole workflow that actually happens right within. So you can actually have your regular workflows right in there, and so you can automate that. So it's basically all your, imagine a Facebook newsfeed, and there's programs that are out there, and that's one tool. Trello is another tool that's kind of cool, and you can check that out. That's for more seen issues or tickets, and you can actually, I don't know how to, it's hard to describe, but it's almost like a pin board where you can actually see where different issues are and where they are in the process of your organization, and you can build that quickly. A must-have, I would say, in our org is I would say Google Docs, whether you're using Windows Office this way, but I find that often I'll have a lawyer in Toronto, a couple workers that are in Vancouver, someone in, like last week I actually had someone in West Africa, and I had someone in Indonesia, someone in Vancouver, and we're all on the same document, and someone's doing the outline. I'm usually the outline guy because I'm more like Tarzan language, and someone else is like putting it into sentences, and the lawyer's making sure that it's all good, and rather than emailing it back and forth, within half an hour you have your documents done. So actually doing it right within real time. And so there's tools that are out there to do that, and I would say that has increased the efficiency. It's increasing the iterations of communication. So whether it be collaboratively doing a document or using like a newsfeed type system. If you want to talk more about that, you can. Some of us can talk about some of the interfaces that are out there, and you can come talk to me. I would say Slack is not a fit-all for every organization, but that concept, I would say, is definitely a must-have. And do you have any more details on? Would you want me to go further? Or?
No, I just think it's important because I think a lot of companies stay with old legacy sort of systems.
Yes.
Methods of email, right? Well, email has become so obsolete in our organization. Yes, we email our finance, but we did a part of it. We use email.
Definitely.
And I think that people need to understand that there's always methods that
Totally. Totally, and if you're an org, yeah, if you're an org in Thunder Bay, if you're locally based, one of our guys, or I'm sure some of the companies here would gladly, if you contact us, even take a day and kind of audit kind of how you guys are doing things and see if we can increase the efficiency of how you're doing things, even at a friendly coffee level, like nothing like major, but I see a lot of that going on in Thunder Bay, and I like that kind of networking that we can have in Thunder Bay that you might not get in a larger city, and so it's kind of a hometown kind of feel here, and so totally ring us, talk to me, and I can, or some of the orgs here that are doing this kind of stuff.
Another tool that we've had success with as well, just when we were on this, and it escaped me early on, is we use one called AdRoll, and what that is, it's retargeting advertising. You work so hard to get initial contact with somebody that it's easy for them to forget who you are, and you try to do anything you possibly can to get them to their website, and when they do, it stores that that person's been to your site. And how many of you gone somewhere, you've been on a website, and then all of a sudden, oh, I see an ad for so-and-so here. You don't necessarily click on it, but it's that mental note of, yeah, I should get in touch with that company again. So that's another one that we find is really successful, especially when you're doing long sales cycle type stuff where it's going to take a couple months to close people. Having that reminder, even when they're browsing personally, is really important that that's there, and it doesn't cost a lot. I think maybe it's 6 cents every single time it happens or less, something like that. So that's another great tool.
Thank you. Is there any other questions in the audience? Over there.
Hi. Just a couple of new applications. I was listening to Vaynerchuk a lot lately, and one of the apps he's really standing behind is Snapchat. And I'm just trying to figure out what's the business proposition, what's the business value in using Snapchat? That's the first question. And the second question, I can understand to some extent where you want to take things offline, where you want things to be not recorded. Like if you're discussing a particular deal where you don't want any texts or emails, you just want things to disappear once you communicate with. I can understand that, but there must be a bigger thing that he's looking at that I'm not aware of. But that's his first. The second one is Periscope. What's the full? I mean, more. I understand it's a live connection that shows. Like this whole event could be live right now on Periscope, and people can send in questions and so forth. What's the business context there that it could be most applicable to?
Who wants
Do
to
you want me
take
to do
that?
Snapchat, you said?
No, we all are doing.
Oh, you want us to do Snapchat? Okay. Oh, but anyone can take Snapchat.
I'll just come out and say that I have no use for Snapchat. I'm not a teenager that needs to have my messages go away. It's not a method that I use anyways for communicating. It's just not applicable to me and the audience that I have, but it might be to you. So if anyone's marketing to someone who's a younger demographic that communicates digitally only, and you want to have messages that last for a short period of time, such as sales or discounts, coupons, and stuff like that, that's going to disappear over a period of time that you don't want to have lingering around for forever, that someone might be able to utilize, it makes sense there. Periscope, a lot of the stuff that we do when it comes time to video related stuff, it's not necessarily a live environment. We deal face to face with people, so Periscope doesn't make sense for us again, but it might for some of these guys on the panel.
Snapchat is like it's one of the weirdest kind of social network, and it's very good for a very specific demographics like teenagers, definitely, as Nick mentioned. I was reading some articles about how even recruiters are trying to use Snapchat for hiring, and we had this debate about regarding that. How would you like self-destruct resumes? So see, there are challenges. So just because there's a tool out there, it doesn't mean you need to use it. So you need to it's more or less finding the right tool for your business, right tool that aligns with your strategy. So for us, after that debate about Snapchat, if it can be used in recruitment industry, we found out no. But there are brands out there which are using, and they're actually doing wonders with Snapchat. There are some news channels that are doing really good. There are some products that are doing really good. So it's more or less about what's your actual audiences and whom you're selling, and if that tool actually fits into your strategy.
And if you get that tool, commit to it, because if you're just going to dabble in it, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I guess you guys covered it pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, is do your research to know where your customers are and use those tools and platforms and do them well. There's no sense being on 20 different ones and doing them halfway if your customers aren't there. So doing a bit of more research into whether it's Snapchat or Periscope.
Now some of I think some groups here are NGOs, and you may be dealing with a teenage market or a younger market. So it may not be for marketing material, but like there may be, I don't know, there may be some way of understanding your audience, if that is your audience. So and there may be a use for it. And
question.
Hi, guys. I'm very interested in the tech industry. I've been doing a lot of research, been bugging these guys at the Innovation Center, asking them a ton of questions, but I'm really interested to hear from you guys. You guys are in the industry. I realize there's a lot of competition out there. It's a crowded market, but just generally, what do you guys see as any areas where there's unmet customer needs or types of sub-industries within the tech industry that you think maybe are promising and that sort of thing?
I think this one's probably for all of us. But, where I find that I'm really successful and when I go to find new customers is, believe it or not, people are already doing what I'm doing. It's just they haven't automated it. So if you're looking for an unmet need, try and find something that someone's doing and they're just struggling to keep up. If they're struggling to keep up, it means that there's a business opportunity there, and then go and find someone else who has the same problem, and if it's the exact same, that's a business opportunity right there, because you're on a line path, A, B, that's showing that there's some sort of indication there. One data point is not enough to say that there's a business there, so make sure you do your research and try and find those things that people are currently doing offline. So I mean, with tablets, when they came around, they more or less eliminated anything that's paper-based, right? So you have a whole bunch of software companies that started up and developed these mobile apps just to eliminate paper, because everyone was using paper, right? And it was unnecessary for them to do so. So try and find something that people are doing that they're not happy with their current solution, or they hate doing, and would rather spend their time doing something else. And that's a business opportunity, because you're alleviating a pain point.
The way we actually approach this is like we try to find inefficiencies in actual the things that are happening right now. Like that's exactly what we did in job advertising space. We saw that like close to 90, there was like the churn rate of people coming to a job page and not applying was above 90%. And that's why we started pitching companies that, hey, do you want to use retargeting, the same technology that Nick just mentioned? And they said, yeah, why not? If we can increase our ROI over time and actually make use of our funds in the right way. So they like the idea. And that's where just from inefficiency in current industry, we found a business solution. So they're like in every industry and in every product, like in every market, there are inefficiencies. So if you can pick one and if you can do research, and there are enough data out there, like you can find data, you can see what's happening, why certain things are not working, and what are the best ways to do it. So you can definitely find one.
Yeah. So you can also find how often there's a product that is solving a problem. Like if you're just looking for broadly, like I want to do something, you can see how, say, a product is solving a problem for, say, a mainstream area, and extract some of how they're doing that for maybe a vertical that the mainstream solution doesn't solve. To bring that to a real example, say, for example, YouTube. Actually, that's a really hard one. I went down that path for many years. But YouTube's great for a broad market, but then there's in-house YouTubes. Like there's like an organization, the power of actually searching all the videos in your organization, tagging them, that kind of thing. That would be an example. Taking one vertical market would be like within network kind of video library. So an example of finding a niche, and then you can even go nicher from there on in, like finding an actual specific market that, again, if you can solve a problem for one person, back to my original, and they will pay for it, and yes, then you know that there's a repeat of that type of person internationally, then you know you got a product line, and yeah.
The other thing that you can possibly do is you look for platform technologies that are going to be so that you can ride the wave, right? So when the internet came out, it started with a whole bunch of companies in the .com era. Now that mobile's around, it started a whole bunch of companies, and what we're seeing is it's a cross section of some sort of emerging technology, whether it be mobile, 3D printing, virtual reality. There's all sorts of different things, e-commerce that are out there. Find a technology and pair it up with an industry that you're passionate about, and then you'll find an idea in there. Like look at Uber, for example, mobile taxis. Combine the two, great. We're a $65 billion company right there.
there any other questions?
Going once? Going twice? All right, big hand for our moderator and the panelists.
Engage and the Anishinaabe Eski Development Fund would like to thank the sponsors of Engage 2016. TB Newswatch, TD Bank, T-Baytel, MNP, Shout Media.